Welcome back to Twin Chat. Hi, I'm Kenan McCumber, mom of two and teacher living in Bend, Oregon.
And hi, I'm Steph Kafori, mom of three, a life coach living in Hawaii. And we are so excited today to have Faith Comitis with us. And I want to just give a little background about what we're going to be doing before I tell you about Faithy. But hi, Faith.
Hi.
So we're launching today a 4 episode series where we'll be hearing from adolescents and young adults in about the 14 to 20s range, talking about their journey and their experiences during COVID. And the purpose of this series is to get an idea of what it's like, but what it's been like for these young people during this past year. So we're going to talk about a range of topics from school, whether it be in person or remote, staying connected or disconnected with friends, and learning from their perspective and what it feels like and looks like living this new life. And I put that in quotes, this new life and pandemic lifestyle. And this year has been tough for everyone, for adults and emerging adults and adolescents and youth. And there's some things that have been positive at the same breath. And so we want to kind of touch upon those things as well and what people want to incorporate into their lives, what they've learned from this past year, and what they want to incorporate into their lives when the pandemic is over. And so, some of the challenges that we've seen and I've seen in my coaching is limitations in autonomy, the impact of a new life routine, limited social interaction. And that's especially huge with the adolescents and young adults. I mean, it is for adults as well, but this is what I'm hearing and seeing. And having to cancel big life milestones like graduation and prom and full sports seasons, things that kids look forward to. And that is part of how they view themselves and define themselves. And with that, there's profound with this profound change is loss. So experiencing what that loss is like and acknowledging that. And on the other side of the spectrum, right, we have the yin and the yang. And on the other side of the spectrum, we have amazing positive experiences that the youth are experiencing, like um, learning more about themselves and self-discovery and a slower pace of life. Like there is a lot that's great that's come out of that, and rediscovering family, having this spending a lot more time together, which is, when you have 100 activities, you don't actually have that time, and connecting at a distance. So there is a conscious effort to connect via Zoom and or having social distancing get-togethers. So this is sort of the theme of what we're going to be talking about over this 4 series episode. And again, we are so grateful to have Faith with us this morning, our time, and evening her time, because Faith joins us from Amsterdam, and Faith is 20 years old, and she is graduating this year with a degree in tourism, and she speaks 3 languages, no easy feat. So it's Dutch, English,
Spanish.
and Spanish. That's right. I forgot the third one. She's traveled extensively, and she's a very accomplished young woman. So welcome, Faith. Thank you again so much for joining us.
Thank you for letting me do this with you guys.
It's really exciting to have you, Faith, and we have so much good stuff that we want to chat with you about today. And Steph and I were thinking that we would start by just kind of asking you a broad question about what it's been like for you for the past year, and you can focus on school, relationships, job, kind of whatever comes up for you.
Yeah, well, it's been definitely a complete 180, 360. Because before, COVID happened, I was out every weekend with friends. I was traveling to different places. I was planning vacations with friends. I was going to school every week. So it's completely changed. The one thing that's definitely changed is my social life. Definitely, that's completely changed because the way that I used to always be social was going out with friends on weekends, going to parties or going out to have drinks. But obviously, when that happened, everything closed down. So it also definitely shows you how you socialize with people, how that completely changes. But then also being social, for example, at school, because I used to have so many friends at school, except now with having online classes and everything, you also realize how that also completely changes.
Yeah, absolutely. And how are you connecting with friends these days?
Well, it's a lot through social media, and I've been using FaceTime like more often. Like I used to use it every now and then when like before COVID happened, but now it's like my go-to. Like if I feel like reaching out to a friend, I don't just call them, I FaceTime them because there's that like face-to-face connection almost.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, it's mostly through social media, seeing what people are doing, like how are they doing. But I've also realized that I've lost connections with a lot of people that like you would think that are your friends, but then you realize if you're not socializing with them as often as you do, you realize how different you are and how like how actually you guys weren't 100% friends. But it also shows you, for example, I've created like even stronger bonds with some, especially friends of mine from school. We always got along, but then ever since of the pandemic, we've become 10 times closer. Like I sometimes, like some of my friends now, I now acknowledge them as family because we've dealt with a whole bunch of things together. And yeah, we've kind of just grown up massively within this past year.
That's really interesting because you know you have this thought, right, that this is my core group of people, and how that's changed, and how you've really become closer with other people, and you have this bond of this past year of supporting each other. And Faith, are you, I don't know what it's like in Amsterdam in the sense, like, can you do social distancing? Can you meet at a park and hang out?
Well, it's been up and down with the rules because we used to get like a press conference from our from our like president of what was going on, what were the rules. So at one point we were allowed to meet outside with maximum 4 people. So that's you and then 3 other people from different households. But if you would go out, for example, if I would go out with my brother and my mom, we could be with the 3 of us because we're one household. But then you would see that everyone at the beginning was you like yeah, accepting the rules and staying by them, making sure that they weren't with too many people. But then obviously because it kept getting worse, for example, in our ICUs were completely full, and we got the full rundown every like 2 weeks of what was going on in our healthcare system, which was then the reasoning why we got so many rules that we had to stick by. So then it went from like maximum 4 people to then maximum 2 people. So that's then you and only one other person. And then there was also a rule that you could have people in your house, but then you would like maybe have max 2 people separate from your household that were able to come over. So it
Mhm.
was really difficult because then you had to see, okay, where are we going to hang out? Like, because usually the way that I would socialize is that me and my friends would go to like a cafe, go sit on the terrace and enjoy the sun and drink wine together. But obviously that completely changed because all the restaurants and cafes closed. So then it was also a plan like, when are we going to be able to see each other? Whose house are we going to? Are we going to the park? Is it nice weather enough? Because in Amsterdam, we also have not good weather at all. The majority of the time, we've been blessed with a few days of like sunshine and warmth, but for the majority of the time, it's been rain, cloudy. At one day, we had snow, hail, sun, and rain within one day. So, so planning is definitely a factor around the weather. But yeah, it's just also showing you that socializing now is completely different.
So Faith, I was just thinking about, what you were saying about your social circle really, becoming smaller and realizing who those core friends are. Do you see that staying the same when the pandemic is over and we go back to more of a normal life, or do you see kind of opening back to that larger social circle?
No, I think I'm honestly gonna stay in the small circle because I used to have a very big like friend circle when I would go out, and like those were some people that I'd like then acknowledged as family, but then through the course of time, like they slowly started to disconnect. Like even I was trying to reach out, they wouldn't like reach back out to me. I'm like, okay, this is a waste of my energy, a waste of my time. I'm just gonna let it go. And if they come back, then that's what happens. But yeah, only one of them really reached out to me through this whole time period. So I was like, okay, well, that group is kind of gone. Let's see who else I have. But then, for example, one of my friends, she literally lives like 2 minutes away from me. We were quite good friends before, but then because we were the only two that really lived close to each other, we started forming a bigger bond. And now I have keys to her house because we're just super close friends, and we're like now family, because I also get along really well with her parents and her older brothers. And then I was literally there maybe every week during the pandemic, because we were only allowed to see a specific amount of people. So then we were the ones that just hung out all the time, and I don't see that changing at all. And also with the small group of friends that I now have from school, I think that's definitely going to stick past when we get to the more normal. But I do believe that I think I might get a larger friend group, but I think my friend group now is going to stay like my small close friend group.
Yeah, yeah. That I think it's a what I was saying before when we first started the episode. There are things that you want to take with you from this experience, and that sounds like one of those things. Is this beautiful friendship that you formed that you may not have experienced had it not been for this pandemic.
I definitely don't think I would have experienced it without this happening.
And what, I talk a lot in my coaching about, our feelings and the yin and the yang of emotions, right? The positive and negative, the duality. And can you tell us like about your feelings during this time, and if there has been a pervasive mood that you have experienced?
Well, yeah, it's been really difficult because obviously I've had to deal with school, going to school every week to then being online on a computer every single morning for like hours and hours, not being able to go out and have fun with friends. So it's definitely changed my moods very quickly. And also I've noticed them a lot more, because I was always the person to shy away from my emotions. Like I didn't really show them because I just didn't want to. So I've noticed that showing my emotions has definitely become bigger, because obviously I can't like release anything without being able to go out. So I've definitely noticed that I get frustrated a lot more quicker. I also get stressed very easily because I'm also a very big procrastinator. So sitting at home for weeks on ends and having deadlines it eventually worked out, but it didn't work out at the beginning. But yeah, definitely being stressed and like also feeling really alone, because even though I was like surrounded by my family like 100% of the time, I'm like not able to be like social like I used to. So I like felt very alone like at the very beginning. And so yeah, it just completely changed the way that I now really appreciate like being able to go out and speak with people, and like being able to express my emotions instead of having to like hide them and like keep them always inside.
Yeah, I think that's a really the isolation, right? Feeling like you're alone in your house with a few people and a few people you love, but you're also alone with yourself, and that's a lot for anyone, especially young people, to have to experience. And but it sounds like you've learned a lot too. You've learned a lot about yourself.
Well,
Yeah,
and
I definitely have.
I was thinking, Faith, too, of this new appreciation. I teach fifth grade, and so the kids have expressed when school was let out last year. Initially, students were like, "Oh, yay, we get time off of school." They were excited. And then a week turned into 2 weeks, into a month, and then all of a sudden they weren't going to get to finish the school year. And there was this profound, deep sadness. And then, of course, we didn't go back into in-person learning until after the winter break. And so that was a long period of time. And so there was a lot of reflection that I did with my students upon re-entry back into school. And I would say 98% of them just said they have a new appreciation for school, for being able to be with their peers, for learning, for the whole gamut, right? It was just, where something they took for granted, right? I go to school, or I don't like going to school, I don't want to go to school. Now it was this shift of, I'm so grateful that I have this opportunity, because when it's taken away from me, I get to notice that. And I think that's a big piece of it as well, as grown-ups and young people, that we get to this mind shift.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that when going to school, like for example, because I'm now in my last year, but obviously COVID started when I was just finishing off my second year. So yeah, we had until the beginning of March, and then all of a sudden it was like, yeah, we're closing schools down, and we're like, oh, wait, what are we gonna do? And then like it's like during this pandemic is the first time that I've actually said, and like you can ask my mom as well, it's the first time I actually said I miss going to school. And because I was never the person that really liked going to school, because obviously I was really social, so seeing my friends and everything wasn't a problem, but it was sitting in a classroom for hours listening to teachers blab on and on. That just didn't appeal me at all. So I was always, sometimes I was really reluctant to be able to go to school, and I was like, I just really don't want to go today. um but then like it definitely showed you, like I was like, I actually miss going to school, I miss sitting in a classroom listening to a teacher in real life, being able to ask questions like without having to stick up, like raise my electronic hand to ask a question. um and like just being able to just interact with other students, because like we okay, my concentration in his class was terrible, because I would be sitting next to my friends and be talking to them while my teacher's explaining something. But then obviously when you're online, you can't talk, you can't like just turn your head and talk to like one of your peers, you have to listen to the teacher and you can't interrupt them. So yeah, that's definitely like given me a new appreciation of just being able to go outside and go to places and go like learn like in person. So that's definitely changed.
Yeah, I think we're, you know, we the term COVID fatigue, right? Is that, and Zoom fatigue, and it's exhausting. It's exhausting, this lifestyle of, you know, having to connect virtually. And I'm wondering what, you know, what are your friends? What are they experiencing similar things, Faith? Or what are you talking about in regards to the pandemic?
Well, we have like, it's very strange because we become 10 times more open about everything. So we'll talk about guys more often. We'll talk about feelings. We'll talk about like stress about school. So yeah, you definitely see a switch on what we actually talk about, because we don't really have any way to like express it otherwise. So like we talk about very private things, very political things. Like I've found that me and my friends have also become very political, because also we had to vote for our elections this past March. So then there was a whole bunch of talk about political, because obviously yeah, the majority of my friends, we all thought that the people that were governing our government at the time weren't doing a very good job. So we were talking about, okay, well, considering we're going to be like one of the youngest groups to vote for people, how can we make some sort of change within our government to help put a better perspective on like how it's also affecting young people? Because the one thing that I kept hearing during the press conferences about all the rules was only about how old people were doing, how they were the most affected group, and everything, and how the only thing that I would hear about people around my age, so from like the years 18 to 25, were only that we're being like irresponsible, going out to parties, seeing friends and everything. I'm like, yeah, but it's because we're the one generation that's used to so much socialization. And obviously, okay, we're used to technology and using social media, but then the majority that we post on our social media is being able to go out with friends, being able to go travel and everything like that. And then so it really showed me that our government wasn't really focusing on how to help the youth in our country, because obviously lots of kids were like, for example, I remember a whole bunch of friends of mine, they all do sports. Like a whole bunch of my friends do football. My younger brother does kickboxing. Like there's a whole bunch of kids that do sports to be able to go out and have fun and being able to, yeah, express their emotions. But then obviously that all got cut off. And then they were thinking, okay, well, what am I going to do? And then, yeah, we've also noticed that quite a few friends of mine, because I've dealt with depression for like a couple of years. So I've learned how to deal with it. I know how to express myself through my art and everything. But then I've noticed like a whole bunch of my friends have now developed it. And then they ask me, Faith, how do you deal with it? Like being on your own. And I was like, it's just something you have to deal with. And you just have to find some sort of way to express, whether that's going to see a therapist or doing art or reading a book, like getting like your mind off of things, or like even just going out for a walk in like the nature, like just find something to be able to escape from that mindset, considering we didn't have the option of being able to go out and partying till 5 o'clock in the morning to be able to just release something and gain endorphins, or be able to go to the gym to release our anger or our feelings. Like, so it was definitely a whole bunch of talk about like inner emotions, which I've never done before, because I honestly did not like talking about my emotions whatsoever, because I also really don't like seeing therapists either, which I haven't since I was a young teenager. So it's definitely something that's we've also bonded over a lot.
What I love about that, Faith, is that you have, it seems like these deep conversations that have come alive because of the circumstances that we're in, and that, maybe things would have been more superficial, right? Like a conversation would have been more superficial, like, oh, let's gossip or let's talk about this. Whereas now it's really what's going on in my life. How am I feeling? And your friends are able to meet you in that space. And what a gift that you found those people, because um, that is your outlet. Like you said, you're not able to do those other things. So this is the way that you guys are able to really to have and I want to say really deep connection, but it's also a self-knowing. It's part of your personal and emotional and development, is that this is a great learning that to experience at age 20. A lot of adults have never experienced this. They've never asked themselves, how am I feeling? Talked about it with their friends, brainstorm, bounce the ideas off of each other, and had a safe space to do that. So that is, I am so happy, and also like wowed. I'm wowed by that, by your experience. It's phenomenal.
Well, and I was thinking too, Steph, about just that support. It's almost like you become a support group for each other. And I think about the trust you have to have in each other to be vulnerable, to be that open. It's pretty incredible for you to talk about your emotions and share your journey through depression, and for then your friends to be able to connect and say, I'm feeling some of those. Faith, how have you handled this? Do you have advice? That, as Steph said, is really deep for 20 somethings to be able to be in that space. And when we think about silver linings, wow, that really is a silver lining to this pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I applaud you all, because I know many adults who are not there.
Yeah. So Faith and Kenan, we have time for one last question. Kenan, you pick the last question.
Oh no, you go for it, Steph.
Okay. So Faith, as we look into the future, and hopefully this pandemic, hopefully will come to an end soon. We're all optimistic. How are you feeling, and what are you looking forward to for the future?
Well, I really hope that the light of the tunnel comes quickly, because obviously I'm now, like, I turned 20 this past January, so I'm now officially in my early 20s. And yeah, the one thing I'm looking forward to is just being able to go out and experience life, see what it's like. Also with like the new normal is going to be like, but also the fact that I'm graduating in around 5 weeks. I'm graduating, but unfortunately my graduation has been postponed till September. So I'm gonna have to wait for the whole ceremony, but I should be hopefully earning my diploma in around 5 weeks. So luckily I'll be doing that. And I've also just signed up for a new course to go do my bachelor's in international business. So hopefully I start that in September. So I'm looking forward to being able to go to physical school and not have to do everything online. But also just being able to go travel again, because that's also something that I've been studying for the past 3 years is tourism. And I was actually supposed to go on 2 trips, one at the beginning of 2020 and one at the end of 2020. I was supposed to go in March and November, which were both actually assignments that we had to do for school. We had to plan a trip for the first year and second year students, and then the second one was for only third year students. So I was supposed to go to Portugal and Dubai, but those unfortunately both got canceled because of COVID. So yeah, I'm also definitely looking forward to being able to go travel, because I've also made travel plans with a whole bunch of friends of mine. A friend of mine is supposed to move to Portugal in around a week, so then I'm gonna definitely go visit him. So yeah, it's definitely travel, being able to be social again, and just experiencing what life has to come in the next years that I have.
Well, I am so excited for you, Faith. You have such a bright future, and congratulations in advance. 5 weeks, 5 weeks away from a big milestone, and doing it during COVID and staying motivated and finishing your coursework. I commend and applaud you. So thank you. And thank you so much for joining us today. You've been a wealth of information and honesty and openness, and I'm sure our audience is going to just learn a lot, and I feel very grateful for your time and for being with us today. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, Faith. You are a beautiful young woman, inside and outside, and it's just been so wonderful to connect with you today. So thank you for taking the time. And as Steph said, congratulations on your upcoming graduation. And we hope to talk to you again soon.
Yeah,
well, thank you for having me.
And thank you to our audience for joining us. And please subscribe and turn on your notifications. We release new episodes weekly, and you can find Twin Chat with S&K on our YouTube channel, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. You can also find us on Instagram at rise.life.coach and on the World Wide Web at riselifecoach.com. So thank you, Faithy.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Thank you.